Hi, my name is Joy Schaefer. I graduated from CVCA in class of 2014 last year. You might know me because my sister, Anna Schaefer, goes to CVCA, and so does my little brother, Andrew. So I'm currently going to West Point, the United States Military Academy. I'll be class of 2018, which means I'm a freshman right now, otherwise known as a plebe. Yeah, so I guess today I just want to talk to you about my experience and how I started being interested in West Point and how I applied and life there right now. First, I just want to say I'm really thankful for the J-term class that you guys are able to take. I think it's an awesome opportunity for you guys to get a head start in learning about the process and just the differences between West Point and a normal college. I'm really bummed I can't be there. Sadly, I have to be back today, January 4th. West Point has pretty short breaks, about the same length as a high school break. But I'm glad that I got to make this video to send to you guys. Hopefully it'll be helpful. So I guess I'm just going to tell my story chronologically. I first started being interested in West Point by February of my junior year, so later than any of you guys because you're in this class right now. I came home from swim practice, and there was a postcard advertising admissions to West Point, and my mom jokingly said, wait, what did you say?
I said, hey Joy, how about you think about going to West Point?
And then I just kind of laughed. Well, no, she laughed, and then I was like laughing a little bit, and then I was like, maybe I'll look at it. So I went online, and it was like 8 o'clock Saturday morning, and until probably like 6 o'clock that night, I was just reading about West Point and like watching videos. I read like the whole Wikipedia page, and by the end of the night I had started my application to West Point. I had done like everything that you can do without approval by the administrators, and then you can continue your application. And I had applied to the summer seminar, which is called SLE. It's like a 1 week long summer camp where you learn about West Point, and you kind of go through like kind of a mock daily life of what West Point is like, so you kind of understand if you're right for West Point or not. So I applied for that. So that was February, and then after that day, West Point was my first choice. I had never considered it before, but once I looked at West Point, I knew that was where I was supposed to be. So later that spring, I ended up transferring to CVCA. I had originally been at Strongsville High School, but due to a teacher strike, I ended up switching schools, which ended up being a really good decision. I'm really, really glad that I came to CVCA. You guys have really great opportunity to have great academic environment while you're learning a lot of stuff about Christianity and really strengthening your faith. So, end of that year, right after school ended, I went to SLE, the summer camp, and I absolutely loved it. I would recommend that to anybody that's considering going to a service academy. They have one at Navy, one at Air Force, one at West Point. And so yeah, it's a week long. It costs about $400, but it's absolutely worth it. And it really confirmed for me that West Point was the right place for me. It's kind of like a college visit, and just so much information all rolled into 1 week. Plus, you get to take your candidate fitness assessment there, which is the physical fitness test that you have to take to get into any of the academies, which it's kind of a hassle to do on your own because you have to find a gym teacher to do it. You have to like set up all the stuff. So it's a lot easier if you go to the summer seminar and just take the fitness assessment there. Also, you get your interview done there, which you have to have an interview by somebody at West Point in order to be accepted. So I got my interview done that week, which was really nice, which meant that I didn't visit West Point. I didn't have to visit West Point again until I actually came to the school. I ended up visiting it again on like a one-night visit the next spring, but that one visit allowed me to say I know for sure that this is where I want to be. Plus, it was a really fun week. I got to know a lot of people, a lot of whom are at West Point right now, and most of the days we spent in classrooms, like during the school day part of the day, but the last day you spent in the field doing obstacle courses. You got to eat like an MRE, see a tank and a helicopter, and a bunch of really cool stuff. I can't pause. Okay, sorry. One thing that's that you should know before you apply is that not everybody that gets into SLE makes it to West Point, and a lot of people that didn't get into SLE make it to West Point. So don't let if you don't get into SLE, don't let that discourage you from getting in. However, it is a really, really good. It looks really good on your application if you did go to SLE. So after SLE, I spent the rest of the summer finishing my application and applying for a nomination. So West Point basically has 2 college applications. You have to apply to the school, and you have to apply to for a nomination to get in. And if you get both of those, then you're accepted. So the application is on the website. I think I actually finished my whole application before I went to SLE, which is pretty rare. Most people don't finish until after. They only open all of the things like a couple days before SLE starts. But I would definitely encourage you to do it as soon as you can, because the administrators are looking for people that are really interested and committed to coming. So then the rest of the summer I was applying for a nomination, and it can be really confusing, but I'm going to try to break it down for you so you kind of get a good idea. So you can get a nomination from the president, and the only way that you can get that is, I believe, if your parents are active duty military. I'm not exactly sure about those because I wasn't eligible, so I didn't research into it much. Then there's the vice presidential nomination, which is open to everyone. And then there's the senatorial nomination, also open to everyone, and the representative nomination, which is also open to everyone. So I applied for my representative, Jim Renacci. I applied for both of my senators, and then I applied for the vice presidential. The vice presidential I knew I probably wouldn't get because he only has a couple for the whole country. So I applied for all of those, and a lot of them are fairly similar, but they have enough differences that you do have to be careful, like, because some of them want it in a certain format, some of them want it in a different format, and you just have to be careful that you follow all of those things so that your application looks good. So once I finished all my nominations, it was just kind of a waiting game. You want to get those in as soon as you can too. Those are probably more important to get in as soon as possible than the application to West Point, because the people giving nominations, they want them in like as soon as you can, because it shows that you're really interested and committed to coming. So once I turned those in, then I had to wait to hear if I would get an interview. I ended up getting an interview with both senators and my representative. So some of those, like one I had to drive down to Columbus for, one of them was only like 20 minutes away, but they're probably like 15-minute interviews where they ask you questions. Some of the questions I had were like, what do you think are good qualities to have in an officer? Tell a story where you exhibited leadership or determination. What is one leader that you would emulate or that you would like to meet? A lot of questions like that. And SLE really prepared me for a lot of those questions, because before I considered West Point, I knew like hardly anything about the military. I like hardly knew the difference between like officer and enlisted. Like I knew nothing. So SLE was really helpful for those interviews. So after the interviews, then it was waiting to hear which nomination I got. And I ended up getting my representative nomination from Jim Renacci. So how it works is like the senators and the representative in your state will all work together. So if you're qualified for the representative nomination, they'll send the senators and say, like, they'll say, we're nominating this person, so then you won't be double nominated and like somebody else won't get a spot. So it doesn't, some people are confused, like thinking that like the vice presidential nomination is like has more weight than the senators, and the senators have more weight than the representatives, but it doesn't matter which one you get. If you get a nomination, then you're good. As long as you get into the school, then you're in. So I ended up getting my nomination from Jim Renacci in, was it December? I think it was December. Oh, and earlier that year I got what's called a letter of assurance, which sometimes they'll just call it an LOA, and that kind of told me, like, it was from West Point, and it said, as long as you get a nomination, you will be accepted into the school, which meant, like, they had accepted my application to West Point, but I still needed that second part as a nomination. So that was really confirming for me. It showed me, like, that I can kind of just continue to focus my energies into applying to West Point and making sure that, you know, I'm ready for that. However, I would say it made me a little bit too confident with my other college applications. I didn't visit any other schools, and I didn't turn in my applications until like late December, which I would really not recommend, because that showed the other schools that I wasn't interested in them at all, and I did not get in. So really make sure that you continue to look at other schools and you visit them and show interest, because if West Point doesn't work out, or if you change your mind and feel like it's not right for you at the last minute, then you're going to be in trouble. So then I had my LOA, and I got my nomination in December or something, so I knew then for sure that I would be accepted to West Point. But I still needed like an official letter from West Point saying, we know you got a nomination and we want to accept you. So I think in early January, I got that letter, which was really awesome. They said they'll send you like a kind of a binder with a bunch of information and like a certificate, and that was really, really cool, and I still have that displayed in my room. So then from there, it was basically just preparing for West Point. I scheduled a visit from like end of March to early April. It was a like 2-day, 1-night visit where you get to stay with a cadet. Before you know that you're accepted, you can only do day visits, but once you're accepted, you can do overnight visits, which I would really recommend. If you're especially interested, but you're not really sure if it's right for you, I'd recommend doing both, doing one before you're accepted and one after. So I stayed with the cadet, and I just got to learn about, you know, life there. I got to go to classes with her, got to stay in the barracks, which is usually off limit to any civilians. So that was a really, really cool opportunity. And then come June, I started preparing pretty early for what they call BEAST, is the summer training, cadet basic training. But especially after school ended, I was really preparing by doing like ruck marches a couple of times a week, which is like doing walks with a heavy backpack. And I started, you know, working on pull-ups and sit-ups and push-ups, just getting into as good a shape as I could, but also making sure I spent a lot of time with friends and family, because that's probably the most important way to prepare, is just feeling like, you know, like you had a good time your less than half of a summer, and that you you know, just let yourself relax a little bit before the summer. So then it was around June 30th, my mom and dad and I drove out to West Point after I said all my goodbyes, and they dropped me off for our day, which is that's like the day when you get, I guess, introduced to the Corps of Cadets, and you have to be like kind of sworn in, I guess, and you get your uniforms and everything, and it's known for being kind of scary, because, you know, there's lots of yelling, and you have to keep your head and eyes straight forward, and you can't talk to anyone, and you're just kind of rushed around the whole campus getting issued all this stuff. But don't be scared for that. Like, I think a lot of kids had the expectation, either they went in not knowing what it really was, so they weren't prepared for it, or they went in like just thinking it was so serious that if they did anything wrong that they might be like kicked out or something. But what you have to do is you have to go in with the expectation that, like, it's a game. Like, all of the people that are there that are yelling at you and trying to make you feel like you don't matter at all, it's like they have to do that. That's like their job. So just go in expecting it to be kind of a harsh environment, but knowing like why they're doing it and what you're there for, because it's all for a purpose. It's like, I learned so much during my summer cadet basic training. So cadet basic training, you know, you learn all this stuff. I had like, I mean, in some parts it's, you know, it's kind of rough because you're away from family. You only get a couple phone calls home, and you can't talk to other people when you're outside most of the time. So it feels a little bit lonely, but I mean, just go in and, you know, you can talk in your room.